Before we speak to God in prayer, allow Him to speak to you through His Word. Perhaps you woke up today without truly having rested. Your body got out of bed, but your mind seems to have been awake all night. Repetitive thoughts, scenarios that formed on their own, worries that arrived uninvited. The clock ticked, but sleep wouldn't come. And now, with the day beginning, there's a strange feeling in your chest, as if your heart were one step ahead of time, trying to protect itself from something that hasn't even happened yet. Few admit it, but many start the day like this. Afraid even before breakfast, anxious even before the first task, with an invisible weight that makes the morning harder than it should be. And the most delicate thing is that this often happens to people of faith. People who pray, who believe, who know the Word, but who still feel overwhelmed upon waking. The Bible recognizes this state of the soul more than we imagine. The psalmist wrote, "In peace I will lie down and sleep, for you alone, Lord, make me dwell in safety." Psalm 4 verse 8. This verse doesn't come from someone who has never faced difficult nights, but from someone who knew the difference between trying to sleep carrying everything alone and learning to rest in God. When this peace doesn't come, it doesn't mean a lack of faith. Often, it simply means that the heart is too tired to remember where to rest. There is a silent feeling that accompanies these difficult mornings. The fear of not being able to cope with the day. Fear of the conversations that need to happen. Fear of the decisions that need to be made. Fear of news. Fear of failing. Fear of losing control. This fear is not usually declared aloud. It hides behind a seemingly normal routine. But inside, the soul is on alert as if something is about to collapse. Anxiety also manifests as inner haste. Even when still, the heart races. Even in silence, the mind screams. And in this state, even faith seems distant. Not because God is far away, but because the inner noise makes it difficult to hear His voice. The prophet Isaiah describes something similar when he says, "You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast, because they trust in you." Isaiah 26 verse 3. Biblical peace is not the absence of problems, but the presence of focus. When the mind loses this focus, restlessness takes over. Many feel guilty for waking up like this. They think, "I should be better. I've already overcome this. I shouldn't feel this fear." But God doesn't start the day accusing us. He starts by calling us closer. Jesus said, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Matthew 11 verse 28. He didn't specify the type of weariness. He didn't limit the invitation. He included precisely those who wake up tired of their own minds. Perhaps you are trying to organize everything before even praying. Trying to anticipate problems, control outcomes, prepare yourself emotionally so as not to suffer. This constant effort drains the soul. The Word reminds us, in Lamentations 3 verse 23, that the Lord's mercies are new every morning. This means that this day doesn't need to be faced with yesterday's strength, nor with the accumulated fear of last night. There is something new available now, even if you can't fully feel it yet. This devotional is not for those who woke up full of spiritual energy. It is for those who woke up tired, restless, with a heavy heart. For those who need something deeper than ready-made phrases. For those who need their faith to be rekindled carefully, not forced. God's presence doesn't require you to be well to approach Him. It is precisely the place where you can arrive as you are. Before we speak to God in prayer, it is essential to allow Him to speak first. Because when the Word meets us first thing in the morning, it begins to reorganize the inner self. It slows down the mind. It reminds the heart who is in control. It doesn't ignore fear, but puts it in its proper place. When anxiety overwhelmed me within, your consolation brought relief to my soul. Psalm 94 verse 19. This consolation is not theoretical. It is real, present, accessible now. If you have come here seeking a morning devotional, perhaps it is because your soul needs shelter before facing the day. And God honors this movement. He does not despise those who seek him weary. On the contrary, it is in these moments that his presence becomes more perceptible. Stay here, breathe. Allow the word to begin to touch that restless place within you. The day hasn't even fully begun, and God is already taking care of you. There's a very common spiritual lie among people of faith. If I truly trusted God, I wouldn't be feeling fear or anxiety right now. And, without realizing it, the person begins to believe that their feelings are evidence against their faith. This idea creates a painful internal division. On one hand, the person loves God, believes in His word, and desires to trust. On the other, their heart races, their mind anticipates tragedies, and their body wakes up tense. Then they conclude silently, "Something is wrong with me." And this conclusion is devastating because it transforms faith into a tribunal, not a refuge. Many have been taught, even without realizing it, that trusting God means not feeling, not trembling, not questioning, not getting tired, as if the presence of difficult emotions were an automatic sign of unbelief. But the Bible never taught that. On the contrary, it records men and women deeply filled with faith who also felt fear, anguish, and anxiety. The problem isn't feeling, the problem is carrying these feelings alone, believing that God only approaches when we are strong. Many wake up trying to overcome fear by force. They repeat positive phrases, try to distract themselves, try not to think. But there is a profound difference between faith and emotional denial. Biblical faith does not ignore fear. It leads it to the right place. When I am afraid, I will trust in you. Psalm 56 verse 3. Notice, the psalmist doesn't say if, but when. Fear doesn't negate trust. It becomes its starting point. The word says that as a father has compassion on his children, so the Lord has compassion on those who fear him. Psalm 103 verse 13. Compassion doesn't combine with cold recrimination. God doesn't look at your anxiety with disapproval, but with care. There is also the belief that anxiety always means a lack of spiritual control, when, often, it arises precisely from an excessive attempt at control. The heart tries to foresee everything to avoid pain. The mind tries to anticipate to protect itself. And this is deeply exhausting. Jesus confronts this kind of anxiety when he says, "Do not worry about tomorrow." Matthew 6 verse 34. He is not calling attention to the person's anxiety, but revealing that tomorrow doesn't need to be carried today. The truth is, feeling fear doesn't make you less spiritual. Waking up anxious doesn't disqualify you before God. Having a difficult night doesn't mean a setback in faith. Often, it simply means your soul needs to be reminded of something essential. You weren't made to carry everything alone. Cast all your anxiety on Him because He cares for you. 1 Peter 5 verse 7. Note, it's not part of the anxiety. It's all of it. God doesn't expect emotional perfection to approach. He expects sincerity. He doesn't demand that you arrive confident. He offers to sustain you until confidence is rebuilt. When this truth begins to replace the lie, something changes first thing in the morning. The weight lessens, the guilt dissolves, and faith returns as a refuge. If you woke up feeling afraid or anxious today, that doesn't mean your faith is over. It may actually be the beginning of a deeper experience with God's presence. A presence that doesn't depend on your control, but on His faithfulness. When anxiety dominates the night and fear tries to take control first thing in the morning, many always resort to the same familiar verses. They are precious, but today it is important to allow the word to reach us also through less obvious paths, through texts that speak delicately to those who are too tired to remain strong. The Bible has an impressive sensitivity in dealing with exhausted souls, and some verses, little explored, reveal a God who cares for the subtlest details of our inner selves. One of these texts is in Zephaniah 3 verse 17. "The Lord your God is with you, the mighty warrior who saves. He will take great delight in you. In His love He will no longer rebuke you, but will rejoice over you with singing. This verse is usually read in a celebratory way, but it is rarely applied to someone who woke up broken inside. The context of Zephaniah is one of judgment, collective fear, and insecurity about the future. The people lived under constant threat. And it is precisely in this scenario that God reveals himself not only as judge, but as a presence that remains in the midst. For those who wake up anxious, this expression is profoundly restorative. God is not distant, observing your effort to calm down. He is in the midst of your inner turmoil. Note something essential. The text says that God renews you in his love. It doesn't say that you are renewed by understanding everything. It doesn't say that you are renewed by controlling your thoughts. Renewal does not come from human effort, but from continuous contact with a love that never runs out. For those who spent the night fighting against their own minds, this truth is a rest. You don't need to fix yourself to be renewed. It is God's love that does this silent work. Another verse often forgotten in these moments is in Psalm 131 verse 2. Surely I have calmed and quieted my soul. Like a weaned child with its mother, like a weaned child is my soul within me. This psalm was not written in a moment of conquest, but of inner surrender. The psalmist doesn't say he solved everything, nor that he eliminated the problems. He says he calmed his soul. The image of the newly nursed child is powerful because it doesn't speak of an absence of needs, but of profound satisfaction. The child doesn't understand the world, doesn't control the environment, but rests because it trusts in the one who sustains it. For those who wake up anxious, this verse teaches something essential. Peace doesn't come from understanding everything that will happen today. It comes from learning to rest in the one who sustains you today. The anxious soul is like a hungry child trying to calm itself alone. The confident soul is the one that allows itself to be sustained. A third text, rarely explored in this context, is in Isaiah 30 verse 15. In repentance and rest is your salvation. In quietness and trust is your strength. This verse directly breaks the logic of those who wake up trying to prepare emotionally to survive the day. God doesn't say that strength lies in anticipation, control, or constant vigilance. He says that strength lies in quietness and trust. This sounds almost offensive to an anxious mind, because anxiety believes that relaxing is dangerous. But God reveals that true strengthening happens when the heart stops resisting and begins to trust. The context of this text is a people trying to protect themselves by their own means, making alliances, planning escape routes, trying to ensure safety without consulting God. How many times do we do the same first thing in the morning? We create scenarios, rehearse dialogues, anticipate problems, all to try to feel safe. And God, with patience, calls us back to a simple place: rest and trust. These verses reveal a precious pattern. God does not demand haste from the weary soul. He does not force immediate transformation. He works from the inside out, at the pace of love, not of demands. The word was not written to pressure those who wake up weakened, but to sustain those who do not have enough strength to start the day alone. When you allow these texts to speak to you first thing in the morning, something changes. Faith ceases to be an attempt at spiritual control and becomes a place of rest. Anxiety doesn't disappear instantly, but it loses its commanding power. Fear may still be present, but it no longer governs the decisions of the heart. The Word of God doesn't ignore your difficult night. It speaks to it. It enters that weary space and begins carefully to reorganize the inner self. And, little by little, the soul understands something fundamental. You don't need to conquer the entire day right now. You only need to remain in God's presence in this moment. The rest will be sustained by Him. Imagine an old house built many years ago. From the outside, it seems sturdy. The walls are still standing, the roof hasn't collapsed, The windows are still in place. Those passing by on the street wouldn't imagine anything is wrong inside. But inside, this house holds an important detail. Every night, someone leaves the lights on in almost every room, not out of forgetfulness, but out of fear. Fear that something might happen in the dark. Fear of the silence. Fear of not noticing a problem in time. This house is very much like the heart of someone who lives with anxiety and fear. During the day, everything works. Responsibilities are fulfilled. The right words are spoken. Faith is mentioned. But when night falls, the interior lights come on. The mind doesn't shut down. Thoughts circulate through the corridors of the soul, revisiting memories, creating scenarios, trying to foresee dangers. There is no true rest, only vigilance. The problem isn't that the house has lights. The problem is that they never rest. The wiring begins to overload. Small noises arise. The internal system begins to fail, not due to structural weakness, but due to excessive and continuous tension. This is how the soul that never allows itself to rest in God is. Not because it doesn't trust, but because it has learned that relaxing is too risky. Anxiety functions like a tired watchman. He believes that if he dozes off, something terrible will happen. So he stays awake, even exhausted. He doesn't realize that his constant vigilance brings no real security, only exhaustion. The anxious heart acts in the same way. It tries to protect the person from suffering, but ends up creating constant suffering. Now imagine that, at dawn, someone knocks on the door of this house. It's not a hurried visit. No one arrives demanding explanations. This person enters carefully, observes the overheated wires, the lights on, the tense atmosphere, and calmly begins to turn off some lights, not all at once, one by one, not in total darkness, but creating an environment where the house can breathe again. This person is the presence of God. He doesn't arrive forcibly turning everything off, saying that you shouldn't feel what you feel. He begins by reducing the tension. He invites the soul to trust that not everything needs to be illuminated, watched over, controlled. Some areas can rest. Some thoughts can be surrendered. Some worries can wait. There is a delicate moment in this process. When the light goes out in a room, the heart is startled. The silence seems dangerous. The darkness seems threatening. That's exactly where faith comes in, not as an explanation, but as a presence. Faith doesn't say, "Nothing will go wrong." It says, "You won't be alone if something happens." Jesus said something very similar when he said that the Father cares even for the sparrows and knows every hair on our heads. He wasn't offering control, but care. He wasn't promising the absence of problems, but constant presence. The house doesn't become empty when the lights go out. It becomes inhabited by trust. Anxiety wants to keep everything lit because it believes that's protection. Faith learns that true protection comes from knowing who is in the house. When God's presence is recognized, the heart begins to turn off the lights that never needed to be on. Excessive vigilance gives way to gradual trust. This metaphor reveals something important. Rest doesn't happen when everything is resolved, but when someone trustworthy takes over the care. The house no longer needs to defend itself. The soul no longer needs to watch over itself, can finally rest. Perhaps your night was difficult because many lights were left on inside. Many thoughts, many fears, many attempts to predict the day. This devotional moment is like the dawn entering through the windows. Not to accuse the house for being this way, but to help it breathe again. God is not bothered by the inner mess. He is not frightened by the overloaded wires. He enters exactly as you are. And with patience, he begins to teach your heart to rest, not because everything is safe, but because he is present. There's a question many carry in their hearts, but rarely ask God honestly. Not because he can't hear it, but because the person themselves is afraid of what that question reveals about themselves. It's born in restless nights, in moments when fear grips them, on days when faith seems too fragile to sustain everything. The question is simple, yet profound. God, how long will I feel like this? Few have the courage to ask this aloud, because this question carries weariness, carries frustration, carries the feeling of having tried for too long. And many have been taught that this type of question sounds like a complaint or a lack of gratitude. So it's swallowed, kept, silenced. But the heart continues to ask, even in silence. There's also another question hidden behind this first one. Is the Lord really with me, even when I wake up like this? It's not a theoretical doubt. It's an emotional unease. The person knows intellectually that God is present, but emotionally they feel alone in their own mind. You feel like you're struggling to believe while your heart trembles. This disconnect hurts deeply. Perhaps you've never stopped to formulate these questions clearly. They appear more as sensations than as sentences. A tightness in the chest, a difficulty breathing deeply, an urge to cry without knowing exactly why, a fear that has no name but has weight. And, deep down, the soul wants to know if God notices this, if he cares about this kind of silent struggle. The Bible shows that God is not afraid of difficult questions. Job asked, David asked, Jeremiah asked. Jesus himself, on the cross, verbalized a why that transcends generations. This teaches us something essential. Sincere questions do not drive God away. They open space for a more genuine relationship. Anxiety often arises when a person feels they need to understand everything to feel safe. But biblical faith doesn't eliminate all questions. It sustains the person while the answers don't arrive. And sometimes, God doesn't answer by changing the circumstances, but by changing the place where the heart rests while it waits. There is an even deeper question, almost hidden beneath all the others. God, can I rest in you even without feeling peace now? This question confronts the idea that peace needs to be felt to be real. But the Bible shows us that often peace begins as a decision, not as an immediate emotion. Be still, and know that I am God. Psalm 46 verse 10. Stillness comes before feeling. Knowing comes before controlling. This moment of reflection doesn't demand quick answers. It invites silence, a silence different from that of anxiety. Not the silence full of internal noise, but a silence where the heart begins, little by little, to feel seen. It is in this space that God's presence becomes more perceptible. Not as an explanation, but as companionship. Perhaps you are used to talking a lot with God, but little to remaining with him. Prayer, in these cases, becomes a list of urgent requests, and there is nothing wrong with asking. But today, this devotional invites you to something even deeper, to remain, to breathe. Don't run from what you feel. Don't mask your fear. Just stand before God as you are. The question that no one dares to ask doesn't need to be answered now. It needs to be embraced. God doesn't answer difficult questions with rejection. He answers with presence. And, for an anxious soul, presence is the beginning of healing. Allow yourself a few moments to hold this question in your heart. Not to torture yourself, but to realize that God didn't turn away when it arose. He is there, sustaining you at this very moment. And that is already an answer. Beloved Father, this morning, as our bodies awaken but our souls still carry the weight of the night, we approach you not with ready-made answers, but with open hearts. Some arrive at this moment too tired to organize their words. Others arrive trying to hold back their fear so it doesn't overflow. You know every deep breath we try to take and every thought that insists on returning. Nothing we feel now surprises you. We acknowledge, Lord, that many times we try to start the day relying only on our own strength. We try to organize the future before even embracing the present. We try to control emotions, situations, people, and outcomes, and end up even more tired. Today, we don't just want to ask that fear go away. We want to ask for something deeper. Transform the place where that fear is born. Teach us to rest without guilt. Teach us to trust without needing to understand everything. Teach us to accept that we are limited and that this does not diminish us before you. On the contrary, it is precisely in our limitations that your care becomes most evident. Your word says that your power is perfected in weakness, and we confess that we often resist this truth because we want to appear strong even before you. Father, we ask that you organize our inner selves, not only the external circumstances, but the recurring thoughts, the memories that still hurt, the fears that anticipate losses that may never happen. Give us a teachable heart, willing to learn a new rhythm of life, a rhythm guided by your presence and not by anxiety. We ask you for spiritual maturity, that maturity that does not ignore pain, but is also not governed by it. That maturity that learns to cast all anxiety upon you, not just a part of it. Help us to realize when we are carrying burdens that never belong to us. Help us to let go of what we cannot control and to trust that you are taking care of us even when we do not see. Lord, work patience in us. Patience with ourselves. Patience with the process. Patience with the timing of things. Many times we want to wake up already resolved, already at peace, already confident. But you are a God who works in deep, silent, and continuous processes. Teach us to respect the rhythm of inner healing. We also ask that you heal the way we relate to you. If at any point we have transformed faith into obligation, prayer into demands, the word into comparison, come and restore the simplicity of the relationship. We want to return to you not out of fear of making mistakes, but out of love. Not out of pressure, but out of a desire to be with you. Father, visit now the heart that is listening to this prayer and feels emotionally overwhelmed. The one that woke up with a tight chest, a racing mind, with the feeling that the day has already begun too heavily. Breathe your spirit, bringing order where there is confusion, silence where there is inner noise, rest where there is exhaustion. We do not ask only for momentary relief. We ask for profound transformation. Mold our character to trust. Teach our soul to rest. Train our hearts to recognize your presence before reacting to fear. May we learn, day by day, to begin our mornings with you, not as a spiritual obligation, but as a vital necessity. We surrender this day to you. We don't know all that it will bring, but we know who walks with us. May this certainty be greater than any anxiety. May your peace, which surpasses all understanding, begin to guard our minds and hearts, even as our emotions are still rearranging themselves. Stay with us, Lord. Sustain us. Transform us from within. And may we, little by little, learn to live not under the rule of fear, but under the constant care of your presence. Amen. After all that has been said, felt, and received in this moment, there is a silent choice before you. It is not dramatic nor noisy. It doesn't require grand public declarations or bold promises. It is an internal choice, almost imperceptible to the eyes of those on the outside, but profoundly decisive for the soul. In whom will you trust today? In the fear that tries to protect you, or in God who promises to sustain you? This choice doesn't happen just once. It happens every morning, especially after difficult nights, especially when the body wakes up tired and the mind is still racing. Anxiety tries to take control early on, telling you that you need to foresee everything, prepare for the worst, always be on alert. But faith invites you to a different path, to walk with God even without visible guarantees, even without feeling complete security, even with a still sensitive heart. Choosing to trust God today doesn't mean denying what you feel. It means deciding that your feelings will not have the final say. It means recognizing that fear exists, but does not govern. That anxiety appears, but does not lead. May God remain present, even when peace is still being built little by little. Perhaps the choice you need to make today is to stop fighting alone, to stop trying to prove you are strong, to stop blaming yourself for still being in the process. God is not asking you for immediate emotional results. He is inviting you to remain, to walk with Him throughout the day, to remember, whenever your heart aches, that you are not alone in this internal struggle. This choice also involves where you will place your attention. The day hasn't even fully begun, but your mind may already be projecting difficulties, conversations, decisions, scenarios. Choosing to trust God today is deciding to interrupt this cycle whenever possible and turn your heart to the truth. The Lord is the one who goes before you. Deuteronomy 31 verse 8. You don't walk alone ahead of life trying to pave the way. God is already there. There is a great spiritual power in simple decisions, like taking a deep breath and saying, even silently, God, I choose to trust in you today, like surrendering again what insists on returning to your hands. How to recognize that this day doesn't need to be faced with the weight of yesterday or the fear of tomorrow. If this moment spoke to your heart, subscribe to the channel to start your mornings in the presence of God. Your like helps this prayer reach other people who also woke up needing peace.